Good afternoon. Welcome to Friday Stampin' Chat Live. Okay, so the first thing I always have to do is check and see that I am actually live, because sometimes it looks like I am and I'm not. I've had that happen before. So I'm just looking down at my iPad. Let me just find myself here. And it looks like I'm there. Okay, right. So I should now be able to see any comments. There we go. Okay, now it may be that I'm being unreasonable, but I'm just starting off without my microphone like I did last week. Then I'll pop my microphone on and ask you to tell me if you can hear okay, and if you can, hopefully you will be able to, then we will carry on with the microphone because the sound quality is much better. But I'm just a little bit nervous, having had the Facebook issue with my external microphone for a few weeks. Last week, if you were here last week, it worked fine. So we will just wait and see. I can't as yet see that there's anybody actually watching, so I'm just going to keep kind of whittering on a little bit until someone joins in and they can tell me how the sound is. Alright, well, I always talk about the weather, don't I? Because, you know, I'm British and the Brits talk about the weather, but it really is a beautiful day today. The sun is shining as I look out the window, which is just over there. It's actually a cloudless blue sky. This morning was a bit dodgy, but this afternoon is absolutely beautiful. Quite breezy, so that's, you know, that's happening. Stuff's getting blown around. It's a little bit dusty out there, but I just checked the garden thermometer, which is in the shade, and it's just above 23 degrees, so that's about the best we've had for quite a few weeks. We've had a lot of rain and grey skies over the last few weeks. Belinda is here. Hi Belinda, lovely to have you. Okay, so Belinda, I'm just going to try out my microphone. I was just chatting away to myself because I don't think there was anybody else here, and just saying that I would start off without it, but I would fairly swiftly try with it once somebody joined. So I'm going to plug my microphone in, and I'd be really grateful if you could just type in and tell me how the sound is. I'm hoping it will be like last week and it will be working. So here goes. Okay, so let me talk a little bit to you. So that's with my microphone, and if you can just let me know how it is, that would be absolutely brilliant. Hi Hazel, lovely to have you. Thank you for joining us. All right, so I'm just waiting for a comment to check that this microphone is working okay. There is always a bit of a lag between me saying something, somebody else hearing it, then someone typing in a comment and me reading the comment. So we'll bear with that, but hopefully we will be able to get going. Okay, nothing else there yet. Sound is lovely. Thank you so much, Hazel. That is really helpful. Yeah, Belinda saying yes, vastly better with the mic. Brilliant. Yeah, it makes an enormous difference to the sound quality. So fingers crossed, Facebook has permanently fixed whatever it was they did that meant that external microphones weren't working. I still can't get my head around what on earth that could be, but hey ho. Right, so Belinda's saying it's very warm in her conservatory. I bet it is, Belinda. I bet it is. It's warm in my craft room. I've got French doors. Some of you who've been to my craft room know that, and windows. I have got just one window open because I couldn't bear it without. I've shut the French door, but I suspect there will still be quite a lot of noise. We've got a relatively main road running just past the bottom of our garden down there. And at the moment we've got the open top New Forest tour bus going around there fairly regularly. So we've got the commentary from that, and there appear to be a lot of screaming people sitting at the top these days, so they're pretty noisy. I've also heard several aeroplanes today, which made me realise how used I've got to there not being aeroplanes flying over. And there seems to be quite a lot of traffic, so if it gets really noisy with what's going on outside, let me know and I will shut the window, but for the moment I've got it open because it is a warm day. Ruth is here. Hi Ruth. And Anne is watching too, so welcome to all of you. All right, so I've got a few notes, otherwise I forget what I'm supposed to say to you. So tell me what you've been doing this week. I would love to know. Have any of you done anything exciting? Have you been anywhere? Have you seen anybody? So Hazel's saying it's overcast where she lives and she has to isolate until Monday evening. Well, that doesn't sound like much fun, Hazel. Whereabouts are you if you've got grey skies? So that sounds like a bit of a shame. and hopefully all will be well when you have finished isolating. Maureen is here. Hello Maureen, lovely to have you as well. So what have I been doing this week? Lots of crafting, of course. I've got my monthly card class sent out today, so that was quite a lot of cutting and packing. But I have been harvesting garden vegetables, for which I can take absolutely no credit. My husband is the gardener in the family, but we've had some broad beans and some courgettes this week, as well as lettuce and radishes and tomatoes, just the first few tomatoes, and what else, spring onions, all of which have been very nice indeed. So I have been enjoying that. Ruth went to Brownsea Island in Poole Harbour for their 51st wedding anniversary. Yes, so huge congratulations on that anniversary, Ruth. I know we talked a little bit about it last week. Brownsea Island is lovely. I hope the weather was kind for you. Maureen's saying hello to everybody. Oh, Hazel's in Plymouth in Devon. Well, I know Plymouth fairly well. I spent holidays, long holidays, several times a year when I was sort of a teenager for about 10 or 12 years down in Devon, and we went to Plymouth quite a lot. So it's a lovely part of the world, but I'm sorry you've got grey skies. Perhaps they're blowing this way, I don't know. Okay, so Belinda's saying that it's Goodwood Festival of Speed. Yes, have you been there, Belinda? The Red Hours and the others have been over today. Or are you just saying it's like the Goodwood Festival of Speed outside my window? Russell, my husband, and I went to the Festival of Speed a few years ago and dressed up for it. I have to say that I take my hat off to those ladies who could keep those kind of rolled hairstyles up. Mine looked absolutely dreadful within about an hour. It didn't stay put at all, but we did have a very good day there. Okay, so what else have I been doing? If you're my friend on Facebook, you may have seen I put a very brief video of some donkeys on my Facebook page today. So I went to the post office this morning to post said card class, and there were, I don't know, about eight or 10 donkeys. There's a little herd of them that live around near there, and they were spread right across the road, not wanting to move at all. But there were 2 beautiful little baby donkeys there. Are they foals? I don't really know what a baby donkey's called. Anyway, one of them was grey and very fluffy, and the other one was very, very thin, very young, very skittish. I don't know how old he was, but he was not very old, and he was black and absolutely beautiful, and he had the most enormous ears. So he was an absolutely gorgeous donkey. So I did enjoy that very much indeed. Okay, Belinda's saying Goodwood's on this weekend. She's been before, but not this time. Kay is here. Hello Kay, lovely to have you. Right, so what does, so the other thing this weekend I'm really looking forward to doing is I'm seeing my daughter on Sunday and Monday. She doesn't live that far from us, thank goodness, but I don't see her anything like as often as I would like. We are very close, so I'm really excited and looking forward to seeing her. Hello, Lynn's just joined us. Nice to have you, Lynn. All right, so Stampin' Up news. The designer series paper sale is continuing for the whole of July. So if you look at those pages in your annual catalogue, there is 15% off all the normal packs of designer series paper. So the colour family stacks are not included, and the specialty packs are not included, but everything else is. So 15% off is definitely worth having. If you love patterned paper, stock up during July. If you can't use it because it's too pretty, then buy a pack to actually use, and then you can keep the one you've got. And yes, and there is also a Christmas pack in there, so if you're wanting to start your Christmas crafting or think about your Christmas crafting, then you could get some Christmas paper at a discount and then just put it aside until you're ready to Christmas craft. I'm not ready to Christmas craft yet. I can't think about it yet. I start thinking about it at the end of August, beginning of September, and to be honest, that's too early really for me, but because I'm having to plan classes, I obviously have to think about things early, but I don't do Christmas in July or anything like that. I just can't bring myself to. All right, so the designer series paper sale is on. Today is the last day to book the Fancy Fold cards class for August, so that's one where I will send it out by post with video links emailed to you. And you'll use your own stamps and ink, but I will send you everything else. There'll be 2 fancy fold cards, and you'll make a template for each, and you'll make a completed project for each. And I run this class every month. Looking forward very much to hopefully getting back to doing it face to face in September, but at the moment I'm sending everything out by post and email. If you need any oddments ordering, I'm putting in an order tomorrow lunchtime, so email me your order or telephone me your order before tomorrow lunchtime and I can add that on for you. And next Friday, so a week today, which is July the 16th, is the last day to book for the August card class by post. So that again is a class that I'm sending out by post at the moment. That one, there are no videos. I just do written instructions and photographs, because that way anybody that doesn't use the internet is able to do that class. And once again, very much hoping I should be able to start that back in person in September, although I am going to keep the online version going, not online, sorry, by post version going for a few months, just to see what the take up on that is like, because some of the people who do it don't live close enough to actually do the class in person, or it's on a day that they can't do. So I'll be running the two side by side to start with. All right, I think that is everything except for a polite request to like and share the video, which really does help me tremendously. So if you can do that, I would be super grateful. Thank you. Now I'm going to turn the camera down. I'm going to show you the next sweet sampler, which I'll be taking orders for a couple of weeks, and then getting everything ordered and sent out to you. And then after that, we're going to do some cards using the Picture This dies. They're one of those sets of dies that I kind of looked at in the catalogue and thought, okay, what do I do with these? And then I started to see what other people had done, and then I thought, no, I need these, and I've been playing with them, and I'm hoping that you will be able to see what to do with them as well after today's session. So I'm going to cover you over, and then I'm going to turn the camera down and we can see my desk. All right, so as always, I'm covering you over so that you can hopefully avoid getting motion sick as I alter everything. So let me just change some of the settings. And I'll move my microphone. So the sound may come and go a little bit to start with. Oops, and I've just got everything tangled up. Bear with me. Let's undo that. I've got my phone plugged in, I've got my microphone plugged in, and I've got all the leads wrapped around each other. Okay, nearly there. Let's just clip those wires up out of the way. That's better. Okay. Right. I might need to just tweak things a little bit once I can see what you can see. So again, I'm waiting for my iPad to catch up. There's quite a long lag on it today. That's not too bad, except it's not very straight. And as always, I can't remember which way I have to turn it because I've got everything mirror imaged. So just wait for that to catch up and see if I turned it the right way or made it worse. Now that looks better. Okay, let's move that lead out of the way. Pop that down there in case you need my email. And the first thing I'm going to do is to show you the next suite sampler, which is the Simply Elegant suite. So I have everything here for you to show you. Let's move the pretty bits out of the way. Now you may or may not have noticed this paper in the catalogue. It's a specialty one, which means that it's got something extra added to it. And in this case, there is a lot of foiling. There's foiling on every sheet on one side. And you've got all the metallics in this pack. You've got copper, silver and gold. So let me show you these one by one. So this paper is beautiful. You've got copper foiled flowers with gold foil centres and silver foil leaves, and then these little kind of, I don't know what these are, berries maybe, in gold. Let me lift that up so that you can see that a little bit closer. I'm hoping that the foiling will get picked up by the camera. And again, I don't know what the delay is today. It's about 15 seconds, I think. Yes, I think you can see that. Okay, and on the other side, you've got a black and white pattern. I think it's black, or it could be vanilla. The coordinating colours with this are black, basic grey, vanilla and white. And you'll find that you've got a detailed pattern on one side with foiling, and then on the other side you've got something in the more muted colours. I'm going to cough, excuse me. Oh, sorry, let me just have some water. Okay, so this one has gold foiling on it. This reminds me of architecture somehow, or stately home wallpaper. I'm not quite sure which. And then on the back you've got a sort of a dotted diamond pattern, black on grey. This one is very intricate. It's a little bit like lace, perhaps. It's quite awkward. I'm trying to get it so that the light isn't stopping you seeing what it's like. And on the back you've got quite a detailed grey and vanilla pattern. I think, or is it white? Difficult to tell until you put something white by it. This one's white, let me look. Yeah, vanilla, grey and vanilla, basic grey and vanilla on the back. Then this one has gold and copper. Yes, gold and copper, no silver on it. Or is it? No, there is silver as well, sorry, it was catching the light. So you've got all three metallics on here with a sort of a medallion pattern. And then basic grey and white on the back. This one is gold and black with a vanilla background and a grey lacy pattern on the back. Hazel's saying it's stunning and she has yet to use it. Yeah, it really is stunning, Hazel. I think it's beautiful for congratulations cards, things like that, something where you want something really elegant. But actually they're also great, particularly the non-foiled side, for men's cards, because you've got those very muted black, grey, vanilla, white tones. And I think very often when we're making cards for men, the key things to do are to think about your colours and then to go fairly simple. In my experience, men like plain and simple rather than loads of layers and loads of embellishments. But perhaps that's just the men in my life. Okay, and on the back of this one, you've got these beautiful leaves and berries. Again, black background with grey and vanilla on it. And I don't think I talked about this, but this is a different medallion pattern in sort of rows and columns. So that's the designer series paper. So the sampler includes a quarter pack of designer series paper. So basically the pieces you've just seen, and those are 6 inches by 12 inches. Then you'll get some A4 card, a sheet of basic black, a sheet of, oops, can't pick it up, thick very vanilla, a sheet of basic grey, and a sheet of standard very vanilla. I was thinking most people have got white cards, so I haven't included that. And then some embellishments. So you get 2 meters each of gold cord and silver cord. So these are the Simply Elegant trim. So it's a cord. Let me find something to put that on. Where's my black card? It's not stretchy. Quite fine. So I'm holding that. I'm hoping you can see that. So 2 meters of gold, 2 meters of silver. And then you'll also get 2 meters of gold shimmer ribbon, which is really pretty. It's like a satiny ribbon. It's not very shiny. When they say shimmer, it really is a shimmer ribbon rather than a glitter ribbon. Hoping that's showing. Ribbon's always difficult to show, but it's very, very pretty. It ties nicely. Let me tie a bow to show you. There you go. so it will hold a bow shape nicely. So 2 meters of that gold ribbon, and then 1/4 of a pack of matte black dots, which if you haven't got, these are absolutely, oh excuse me, hang on a sec. Go out. Oh gosh, you've got to love a Facebook Live. Did you hear that? That was a baby starling which decided he was going to come in and join us, but he's gone now. Okay. Matte black dots, these are brilliant, again for elegant cards but also for mail cards. They add a little bit of embellishment without being over the top, so I've been using a lot of these. They're lovely. And you also get 21 of the gilded gems, so 7 in each size. These are faceted. They're very beautiful and they work really nicely with the foiled paper. So there you are. So that is the Simply Elegant Sweet Sampler. 4 sheets of coordinating card, 1/4 pack of paper, 2 meters each of 3 kinds of trim and 2 kinds of embellishments. And this is £11 if you can collect it from me, or £13 if you need me to post it to you. If you'd like me to send you all the details, then let me know and I can do that. And I'm taking orders until the end of the month, and then I will order everything, cut it and package it, and they'll be sent out on the 27th of August, or if you want to collect them, they will be ready on the 27th of August. So I'll pop that there just for a minute. And if you would like information, drop me an email. So I'm going to pop this back in the cello bag and leave you with that information in case you want to either screenshot it or jot it down. And that pack will give you a little bit of everything really. If you're not sure about it, or you don't want as much as a whole pack of paper, then the sweet samplers are a really good way to go. And of course everything in them is coordinating, so you get all the bits and pieces too, so that you can just pull them out and start making. Belinda would like one. Okay, thank you Belinda, I will write you down. I'll do that now. Fantastic. Okay, and I'm not sure if I said hello to Claire and to Val, and if I didn't, I apologise. Hello and welcome. All right, so on with the business of the day, which is the Picture This dies. Now these are standalone dies. In other words, there isn't a stamp set that they coordinate with. There are, perhaps that way was easier, there are 2 dies in the pack. One is one with rectangular apertures and one has circular apertures. So I've actually cut them out to show you. This is the one with the rectangles, just hoping I've got all that in. So here I've just cut a standard card layer with the die, so you can see that it cuts out 3 apertures and it leaves you with 3 pieces, and I've written the measurements on the pieces. You have 2 rectangles which are 2 5/8 by 1 1/4, and one which is 3 3/16 by 7/8 of an inch. Now these are usable on their own, and the frame is usable, which is really nice, because when the die goes through, it cuts a stitch border around the aperture and it cuts a stitched border around the pieces it cuts out. So let me lift that up and I'll try and hope that the camera will pick up the stitching. But that means that you can use all the bits. I'm just waiting for my iPad to catch. I'm not sure it can see the stitching. Let me move it a little bit closer. Yes, I think that's just showing the stitching. There we are. Trying very hard to hold it still. I'm not doing a very good job, I don't think. But all the pieces are stitched. And then the circles die, which comes in the same pack, so you get both dies in the pack, does exactly the same, but this time you've got circles. So it cuts out 6 circles, and you've got 3 sizes of circle. So again, you can use all these pieces in the same or different projects. So you get 1 large circle, which is 1 3/4 inches in diameter. It cuts out 2 medium circles, which are 1 1/2 inches across, and 3 small circles, which are 7/8 of an inch. And again, if I lift that up, I'll turn it and see if that helps. There we go. Everything again has a stitched border. So the bits that you cut out are not waste. Equally, you might use them if you're wanting some stitched circles or some stitched rectangles. So that's what everything looks like when it's cut out. And I could kind of see that from the catalogue. What I couldn't really see was what I would do with it. So let me show you. Now there are lots and lots of things you can do with them, and I've just got 3 samples to show you. So this is my first card, where what I've done is I've stamped. So the apertures are showing some stamping here, and on the inside I've actually used one of those cut out pieces to provide a matting layer for my sentiment. So I've made a congratulations card, and I'm going to make a similar one now just to show you with a few tips along the way. If you don't recognise this set, I think this is going to be one of the kind of unsung heroes of the catalogue, which is easy to miss, but it's absolutely beautiful. So it's this set, To the Moon, which I bought because my daughter is absolutely mad keen on space. So I know I'm going to be using this a lot to make cards for her, but it really is absolutely beautiful. You've got the set of moon phases here. You've got a large moon, a crescent moon, a large star, 3 medium stars, and then a little group of tiny stars. You've got a constellation here, and then you've got various sentiments. Enjoy this new phase of life. Love you to the moon and back. Congratulations. Always reach for the stars, and more thanks than stars in the sky. So, you know, really nice usable sentiments there. And you can actually join up this constellation to make your own fantasy constellations. The stars overlap quite easily. They've got a noticeably they've got one arm. Where am I going? There we go. One of the arms on the stars is longer than the other, and because they're see-through photopolymer stamps, you can actually overlap them. You can match up that arm, and then you can kind of extend your constellations going off, which is what I've done here because I wanted something that was bigger. All right, so let me make a card for you. So I have done a little bit of preparatory work because, as you know, if you've watched me before, if I get my die cutting machine on the desk, you can't see very much anyway, so it makes sense for me to do the die cutting first. So I've cut a layer of Night of Navy card using the rectangular die, like that. So my layer was 5.5 inches by 3 3/4 of an inch, and that just leaves me a little bit of a border either side, like that. So I die cut that, and then I have a white layer to go underneath it, the same size, 5.5 by 3 3/4, and that's what I'm going to do my stamping on. Now I could stamp through the aperture if I was using, here is a small stamp, something really small that would fit through, and so the aperture wouldn't get in the way. But I want to use some bigger stamps on this one, and I'm obviously going to find that that aperture gets in the way. So instead what I'm going to do is draw round those cutout shapes. So I've got a sharp pencil, and I strongly recommend a soft pencil. This one is 2B, I think. Yeah, a 2B pencil, which is quite soft. I always use a soft pencil if I'm drawing anything for crafting, because it will erase so much more easily without leaving a mark than if I was using, say, an HB, and you definitely don't want an H or more than one H pencil. So there we are. So now I've just drawn through there. I just need to make sure that I keep that the right way up, because if I turn it round, this won't necessarily fit back in the same place. I don't know if you can see, but my frames are not quite the same because it's not entirely symmetrical. So now I can stamp on here and I can see exactly what's going to be exposed and what's going to be hidden when I stamp when I lay the frame over the top. So I've got a Night of Navy ink pad, and I've just inked up the stamp with the moon phases on it, and I'm going to use that up here. I want to start with the crescent moon, so I'm going to stamp that in there. And I know what I've forgotten, which is my stamping mat. Here we go, with a photopolymer stamp. I definitely want to have some softness underneath so I get decent image transfer from my stamp. So let me just slide my foam mat underneath. Okay, right, bring back my stamp. Hurt on it a little bit because it's been sitting there with the ink on it. Right, so I will now try and stamp centrally across this. There we are. Now the detail on this stamp is absolutely beautiful. Can you see all the detail on the moons there? Really lovely. So that part there isn't going to show, but that's okay. That's absolutely fine. I'm happy with that. So then I'm going to stamp some words in the center panel, and I decided that I would go with "Love You to the Moon and Back." And I'm just going to reach across my desk for a little bit of paper. There we go. I couldn't decide which block to put these words on. I went with a long one in the end, but I am just going to remove that ink just in case I wobble. Hopefully I won't. As long as I don't wobble, it wouldn't transfer, but sometimes when I'm stamping live, things don't go to plan. There we go. Love You to the Moon and Back. And then I thought in this bottom section I would put the crescent moon and some stars, so about there, I think. Something like that. So all of these are stamped in Night of Navy ink. Let me just lay this over the top and see what I think. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I like that. So I'm going to rub out the pencil markings. And you obviously want to make absolutely certain that your ink is dry before you do this. Stampin' Up ink does dry pretty quickly, particularly if you're stamping on basic white card. It's designed for the ink to absorb into the card very quickly. And again, make sure you've got a decent eraser. This is I think they call them plastic erasers. Some are absolutely awful and will leave, you know, if you've got a red eraser, it'll leave traces of red on your card or what have you. So it's worth spending £1 or £2 on a decent eraser. It'll last you for years and years and years, and it won't give you any angst. There we are. So now all I need to do is to attach this over the top. Now, of course, I could layer it up on dimensionals if I wanted to. I'm not. I'm just going to glue this down. And I'm going to glue around the edges of the card layer And then I'm also going to put a little bit of glue around the apertures as well, just to make sure that nothing kind of flaps. There we go. And it's exactly the same size, so I just need to match up my layers top to bottom and left to right. There we are. I have a Misty Moonlight card base here. And if you look at your stamp collection, I am sure you will have many sets that would work with these dies. The rectangles are really quite generously sized. You can get quite a lot in there, and you could put flowers in there, you could put 3 sets of words, you could put all kinds of animals, trees, you could use them for Christmas cards. There's all sorts of things that will work with this. And of course you can just hold your die over the stamps to see what will work and what won't work. Bearing in mind that the cutting blade is between the stitches, so you've actually, if I put that on there, it looks like I can't quite fit the moon in there, but actually I can, because I've got about, ooh, what distance is that? A little bit more than a 1/16 of an inch top and bottom, so a bit more than an 1/8 of an inch bigger the aperture than it actually looks like on there because of where the cutting blade is. But you can use that to give you a guide as to what's going to show and what isn't. And I'm just going to pop some rhinestones on here. Perhaps I'll just put them around the center, I think, just to kind of focus on the words. And then I pre-stamped an insert. I haven't put a sentiment on this, but I have just stamped the moon and stars on there again. There we are. So that's the first card. I'll put the other one next to it so you can see them both. And I will clean my stamps while you have a look at those. I'm hoping that I've got them both in. Yes, I have. I think I like the one I just did for you now the best, actually. And that's certainly one that will be winging its way to my daughter fairly soon. Okay, so that's got those stamps nice and clean, and I will just clear everything away. And then I can show you another card. Honestly, if you could see my craft room at the moment, I know I say this every week, but truly it is the most messy it's been in a very long time at the moment. I'm going to have to spend a good part of tomorrow tidying up, I think. I've got to the point where I've got no surface to put anything on. I'm moving piles of things to find things. It's just absolutely dreadful. Alright, so this is a card then where I've just done stamping and laid the die cuts over the top. Move those out of the way, and I'll show you one now where I've used primarily patterned paper. So I went with the pansy paper for this. It's really, really pretty. If you haven't got this, I don't know quite how you've managed to craft without it. One of the sheets has a number of pansies on it, which are easy enough to cut out with scissors, or if you've got the pansy dies, there is a die that cuts out the large pansies and one that cuts out the smaller pansies. There's also a paper which has leaves on, and I've die cut some of the leaves here. And then these die cut butterflies are from the Meadow die pack. And then I've used one of the smaller circles that's cut out by this die, and I've just popped it in this slot here. So I'm just going to pull all the bits out of the bucket, and then I'm going to make one of these. I'm just going to change it up a little bit as well, just to give you a second version. So this time I thought I would go with purples. So I've pre-cut the bits, so I am just going to construct, but I'll talk through what I cut at the same time. So I have a fresh freesia card base, and this one is a landscape card, but I'm just turning it for this one to make a portrait card. Then I have a layer of Blackberry Bliss card and another piece of the pansy paper. This one has flowers on the back and gingham on the front. And I have die cut the paper with the circles die. This does also give you little stitched circles from the gingham paper, which are absolutely adorable and will make another really pretty card. So I'm going to start just by layering these pieces up. I've just got an insert there, which I'll take out for the moment. So I'm going to do the same as I did before, which is just to put glue around the outside of the paper and then make sure there's a bit around each of the apertures, just to make sure that they stick down nice and flat. And my Blackberry Bliss card layer was 5.5 inches by 3 3/4 inches, and the paper was 5.25 inches by 3.5 inches, so I just went down 1/4 inch on that, and then I can put that straight onto here. So I'd be really interested to know if any of you have these dies. Let me know. There we are. So that is now all ready to receive all the bits and pieces I cut out. So I've cut out a large pansy from the paper. I've also cut out a second one, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with that in a minute. I've cut out 2 small pansies, so I've got 3 flowers which are in similar sort of colours, or certainly coordinating colours, but they're all different to each other. Then the butterfly, I've cut out 2 in Fresh Freesia card and 2 in Fresh Freesia shimmer vellum, which is a mouthful. If you haven't seen the vellum, it's got a really pretty sparkle to it. It's quite opaque vellum, very, very pretty. It comes in a pack with all 5 of the new in colours. It's really, really beautiful. And just a tiny scrap of it can kind of lift your design. Then I have 2 die cut leaves, and I've got 1 little stitched circle. So I took this die and just ran it through some white card, and then this is the one that came out of the small section there. Belinda's got the dies. She's used them so far with animals and flowers. That sounds lovely, Belinda. Okay, I just thought I would show you the Meadow dies. This is a beautiful die set. There is a coordinating stamp set. The dies on their own, however, are just beautiful. You can make really lovely background pieces, perhaps ink a background or have some designer series paper, and then cut these plants out to have in silhouette across them. That's just one idea, but there are also two lovely butterflies. So this is the one that I've used, and then there is a butterfly kind of in profile, which is actually really, really useful. Nice to have a sort of a sideways butterfly and a top down butterfly. There's also a really darling little tag and then a lovely label in here, plus, as I say, all the plants. A beautiful set of dies. That's the Meadow dies. All right, let me put those away. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is to add my main focal flower, which is this large one, and I'm going to pop it here in here first, in here, sorry, on the left, which is my largest circle, but I'm actually going to decoupage it. So I'm going to cut some pieces from the second flower and add them to the first one. First thing to do is to find my scissors. Oh, and I've got a spider running across my desk. Have you seen that yet? Has it come into your shop? Maybe not. Here it comes. Right, let's just put that money spider down. I'm sure I had a money spider on my desk last week. So Lynn likes the idea of drawing around the dies. Yes, it makes it so much easier to see where you want to place your images, Lynn. I definitely recommend that. Right, so I have two identical flowers here, and I'm just going to cut out this bottom petal here and then this pair of petals here. So I'm literally just snipping the paper. So I've cut through that little yellow eye there. I haven't worried too much about that. And then I'm just cutting on this dark purple line here. So when you cut the flowers from the paper using the dies, you do end up with a little white border, and that's fine. I'm not worrying about the fact that some of that's got white edging and some of it hasn't. It's not a problem. Okay, so that's the three pieces, and let me just lay this one on a bit of white and show you. I don't know if you can see, it's just got the edge of the petal there missing. This flower was right on the edge of the piece of paper, and I thought, well, gosh, I'm not going to waste using that just for the sake of this little kind of bit missing there. So I'm just going to trim that with my scissors, and I honestly don't think that that is going to notice. So I'm just going to, instead of that being a straight line, I'm just going to round it very slightly and just make it look a little bit more like it's supposed to be, like that. There we go. I think that will do the trick. And if I lay this on some coloured card, you can maybe see, just trying to make sure I get it in shot for you, just got some little kind of hooky bits here and here where I've snipped. I'm just going to snip those off and give me just an even outline. So there's nothing very technical about this. I'm just making sure that I haven't got any uneven bits from my snipping. A little bit on there too. There we are. So I don't want this piece. And when I'm doing decoupage with these, I've done it with stamped images as well as patterned paper images. I look at my flower in this case and I just think about what is at the front and what is at the back. So if this was a real pansy, these paler petals would be right at the back, these would be on top, and then this one would be the one nearest me. So I add layers to the parts that are nearest to me. Now I could have cut a third butterfly, and then I could add that piece there, this piece here, and then another piece like this on top. So I had 3 layers here. I haven't done that in this instance. I've just got 2, but that's the idea, that I'm adding extra layers to the portions that are closest to me to add much more dimension. And if I bring back the orange card and show you this flower here. I don't know if I tip it if you can see or not. Can't tell if you can see. I think that might not be very helpful, I don't know. But there are extra petals here, and there is an extra section here as well, so exactly the same as I'm doing on here. Now shaping the flower really helps as well to make it just seem a little bit more real, so you can curl sections up and down depending on what you think looks most natural, and then do the same with the pieces that you've cut. So I'm kind of curling them so they rise up in the center of the petal and then down and up at these sides, just to put a little bit of movement in there. And then this one I'm just going to curl as well. And then it's just a case of layering them on. So I'm going to use dimensionals. Just looking for my mini ones. I've got some mini ones somewhere as well. There we go. So I'm going to put mini ones behind this petal here. And this will just help hold it in a raised position. Oops. So I'm just laying this on top of my whole flower, just so those petals sit on top exactly where they were when they were attached. And then I'm going to put a large dimensional on this larger petal here. And again, just attach it over the top. There we are. So I now have a 3-dimensional pansy. I'm hoping that showed. All right, so back to what I was doing. So that's going to go on here. Just a squiggle of glue, and I'll pop that one in place. And I think I'm going to pop all the pansies at the top. I'm glad I've shown you something that you haven't seen before, Andriana. Cutting and layering. Yeah, there's lots of our papers you can do it with, and also with stamped images. Once you kind of get the idea into your head, you'll see all sorts of things that you can do that with. I think I might move those round. Yeah, I think something like that. So I'm now just going to curl all the pansies before I add them. I'm just going to stick these flat, but I could add dimensionals to them. Belinda hasn't seen that done either. Excellent. Not very often I can show demonstrators things they haven't seen before, so that's always nice. Years and years and years ago, like, oh gosh, 20 years ago maybe, I took some classes with somebody who loved decoupage, and she showed me that idea. It wasn't something I'd come across before. I always thought decoupage was a bit of a kind of a granny pastime, but it's actually really nice just to add a little bit of extra detail. Okay. Alright, now I'm going to double layer the butterflies. I'm actually going to use a glue dot to hold them together. Because that just holds the vellum really, really nicely. And I'm just folding the wings up. You've probably seen me do this before. I put my thumbnail along the side of where the body would be and fold the wing up, and then I do the same the other side, and that then gives me a little flat section there to glue, and then the wings sit up rather than being flat, and it just makes all the difference to adding a little bit of life to the butterfly. There we are. So I've just added a glue dot behind the butterfly body. I'm going to be putting some jewels on here in a minute, so I don't think I can see the glue dot through, but if I could, it would be hidden by the jewel. So same again, I'm just going to put glue where the butterfly body is. I'm going to pop a butterfly in there, and then I'm going to repeat with my other butterfly. So fold the wings, on the shimmer vellum and on the card, and then use a glue dot on the vellum just where that body part is, and then I can glue the body of the butterfly in place. There we are. So the last piece to attach is this little stitched circle. So I'm just going to stamp on here, and my stamp just says "for you," and it's from Friends Are Like Seashells. It's this little one here. So it's nice and small, and I've got Blackberry Bliss ink here. So I'm going to be very careful, because for some reason Blackberry Bliss is one of those colours like Cherry Cobbler that I always get all over me, and if I'm not careful I end up with Blackberry Bliss fingerprints and all sorts where I don't want them. There we go. So I'm going to glue that into the centre of my last circle. And then I'm just going to tie a bow. First I'm going to clean that stamp. Photopolymer stains, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's just the nature of the beast. However, I will just clean that blackberry ink off it fairly promptly, just to reduce that a little bit. Okay, now somewhere, here we are, I've got a piece of fresh freesia open weave ribbon. This is beautiful ribbon, and I'm going to tie another one of those double bows, which you may have seen me do last week. This is my new thing. I really like these. Now I want quite a small bow, so I've got my two fingers not very far apart, and I'm holding the end of the ribbon in place on my middle finger. So I will talk you through it, but apologies if you saw this last week. However, I will be showing this much more slowly next time, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute. So I'm not going to take too long showing you this. So I've got the end of my ribbon here. I've got my fingers apart because this will determine the size of the bow, and then I'm going to over my index finger, between my fingers and under my middle finger, over my index finger, between my fingers, over my bottom finger, over my index finger, and back between. So I've got two full loops. Oops, and I had one too many there. Right, let's undo. There we go. I've got two full loops now on each of my fingers. Then this goes across the middle and through. Let's try threading it. There we go. And round and up. Okay, so that is probably far too quick for you to follow. So I'm just going to do it one more time, and then I'm going to tie the bow. So hold it between my thumb and middle finger, space my fingers, ribbon goes over, between, under, between, over, between, under, and then it goes over the ribbon and between my fingers to the back, comes back to the front, goes under that loop that I just made, if I can untangle it, there we go, and then that pulls it tight, and that has made a bow with double loops. You just then need to get it off your fingers. There we go. And you can actually slide it across the middle. I haven't got that very central, but it will slide. There we go. Okay. So that's a double bow, double looped bow, I should say. I'm just going to trim the ends. There we go. And I always use mini glue dots for holding ribbon, because it doesn't soak through the ribbon like a wet glue does, and it's an instant grab. So I've put, I think, 3 mini glue dots on there. And I'm just going to press that in place there. Let's check my ends. I think this end's just a little tiny bit long. I'm just going to take a smidgen off that. There we are. And then we just need some in colour jewels. These are so pretty. They're super sparkly. So let me have a look. I'm looking for my knife to pick them up with. There we go. So I think I need a large one in my large pansy. And I'll pop little ones in the little pansies. And then probably large ones, I think, on the butterflies. What colour is the question? Let's have a look at that. Yeah, that works. There we are. And I'm just going to pop these back in the bag because I know they will end up on the floor otherwise. But yes, these are the new, the 2021 to 23 in colour jewels. Very, very pretty. They're faceted and iridescent, and you've got 5 different colours in there, and they seem to go with everything. They're just beautiful. So that is my finished card front. Now I'm not going to stamp a sentiment on the insert, but I have got a little bit of that gingham paper, just a little offcut, which I'm going to stick along the edge. I can use my grid paper to make sure it's straight. I think if you're using stripes or checks, you definitely want to get them straight. And then I'll just trim that excess off the back. There we are. So I'll pop that inside. And that'll give me a pretty blank card, because the words I chose on the front for you can make it usable for any occasion. Glue on my fingers. Let's just get that off. There we are, that's better. So that then is a card using the circles dies. So you can see it's exactly the same card. All I've done is changed the colours and changed the orientation. So if you've got a design you like but you don't want to make another card the same, that can be one way of doing it, because if I turn that way, you can see it's essentially exactly the same card. So again, I'm going to put everything away, and then I've just got one more card for you, which again I have partly made just to speed things up this afternoon. Thank you, Belinda. I'm glad you like it. I must admit I was very pleased with this one. I do think it's a pretty card. I'm glad you like it too. I used some more of the pansy paper just to decorate envelopes for them as well, just on the flap. That's a trick I learnt from my friend Rosie. Okay, and I'm going to have to answer the door. I think that might be a parcel, so bear with me. I'll run. I'll leave you with those to look at. Okay, I'm back. I'm so sorry. There is no easy way to deal with that when you're in the middle of doing something live. And you know what delivery people are like. Sometimes they'll leave something if you don't answer the door, and sometimes they'll take it to the depot, which could be 20 miles away, and then you have to go and collect it. So I just didn't want to risk that happening. Right, one final card. This one is more involved, but I have done almost everything in advance, so I'm just going to show you how it comes together. And that is a shaker card. You can see the sequins shake, and if I just tap them to the bottom, you can hopefully see the images in there. So this is a slightly more complex version of this card. I've used the circles rather than the rectangles, and I've turned it into a shaker card, but essentially it works the same way. I've cut the frame, I've stamped the card underneath, and I got everything in the right place by penciling around the apertures, and then I've just made it into a shaker card rather than a regular card. So let me show you how I did that. I've got lots of bits and pieces here. Oh gosh, a lot of crashing off stage, isn't there? Okay, right, so as I say, I have pre-done quite a lot of this just to speed things up. So those are the bits I've cut out, which I'm not going to use, and those bits I am going to use in a minute. All right, so I have a card base. I've picked out Mango Melody, and I have a die cut layer here, and I die cut it, and then I put it through the bark embossing folder, and in fact I think I've got it up the other way. There we are, that way. So I've got some texture on this. I die cut it and then embossed it, because you can find if you emboss and then die cut that you lose some of the definition of the embossing when it goes through the machine to be cut. So I did the cutting and then the embossing. Then I did, as you saw me do for the first card, I laid this down on here and I penciled through. Now this isn't actually the layer I used. The layer I used I'm going to show in a minute, because I moved a stage on with it, which is why you can see the pencil marks don't match up. But essentially that's what I did. And then I stamped in my pencil circles. I've already done some of those just so I didn't sit here and take up too much of your afternoon, so I'm just going to stamp in these two now. And the stamps I'm using are Whale of a Time, which you've probably all seen and probably lots of you have got. I really love these, they're such a fun set. And I have Just Jade ink, and I also have Soft Succulent ink. So I've got the little seaweed stamp with Just Jade. I'm going to pop that in here. I didn't use this stamp on the first card, but I am on this one, I think. I've still got my foam mat underneath, and I've gone over the edges here because the stamp is bigger than that penciled circle, but it doesn't matter. And then I'm going to stamp the seaweed image. I've got Soft Succulent ink. And I'm going to stamp and then re-stamp, just so I've got a few variations in colour. There we go. So that's got some weed there, and then once again I've gone well over the penciled outline. You can see I've gone right off the bottom of the card, but that doesn't matter because it isn't going to show. The other colours I used were Mango Melody for the jellyfish, I used Soft Succulent for the turtle, and Pacific Point for the fish. The fish image I absolutely love because it's reversible, so you can have fish going this way and then just turn the stamp round and then have fish going the other way. I'm so pleased they did that. Alright, so then I'm just going to erase those lines. Glue all over the back of my hand. I don't know how I've done that. Every time I lie it down I can feel the paper sticking to it. There we go. So that's my finished stamped layer, and then here I have the die cut layer that I actually had drawn round for those circles, and on the back of it I've put a layer of acetate. So my acetate is cut the same size or fractionally smaller than this layer, and I've just glued it behind with multi-purpose glue, exactly as you saw me glue before. So I glued around the edges and put a bit around each circle, and then I stuck the acetate on. And once that acetate was firmly glued in place, the glue had set, had dried, then I've added the foam adhesive strips around all the apertures and around the edge, which is what this rather messy thing here is. If you haven't seen these, they're always really jammed in the bag. The bag is bigger, but the grip seal at the top is quite small. Here we go. So it's dimensional adhesive in long strips, okay, and they are cut in between, so you can just peel off long strips. A few years ago we used to have to make shaker cards using dimensionals or the waste around the edges of the dimensional sheet, but now we've got this brilliant strips of adhesive which makes shaker cards much easier. So I've just put strips all the way around the edge. I've actually used all sorts of oddments that I had, but that's fine. More importantly, I've put a strip around each of these apertures. In some cases, because the apertures are close together, I haven't needed to put a second strip here. I've just joined bits round because the one I'd used on the neighbouring aperture actually covers over enough of the border that I don't need a second piece there. I hope that makes sense. Tell me if it doesn't. So I've now got dimensional adhesive around each of these apertures. Now it looks pretty messy, I will give you that, but that's fine, it will work. Okay, and then there are two ways of doing the next stage. The next stage is to add whatever is going to be the shaker element, the sequins, or anything else that you might use. Little beads, you might have punched shapes, anything like that. So I'm using these sequins, so they come in a pack with 4 different sets of colours. I'm using the greeny ones. So I can either put little pools of sequins on here and then put this over the top. Goes that way in fact, or I can put the sequins in here and then I can lay that on top, and I think that's what I'm going to do this time. So the first thing to do is to make absolutely certain that I have this around the right way, that I haven't accidentally turned my frame that way. So I know it needs to go this way, like that. Next I'm going to peel all the backing paper off my foam tape, because once I've got the sequins in here, peeling this off can actually move it and the sequins can start to bounce around. So I like to take the tape off, or the backing off the tape, before I put the sequins in place, and then I try very hard not to drop the sequins on the sticky foam tape. If you've made shaker cards before, there is nothing different about this at all. This is just a fairly standard way of making shaker cards, and everybody loves shaker cards, don't they? Now I've just turned that round, I think, so I'm just going to lay that down and check. Yeah, I have got that the right way round. Alright, so I'm now going to pop some sequins into each of those little sections. Got my take your pick tool here, and I'm just going to use it like a little shovel. People always say how many sequins to use. There's no easy answer to that, and I certainly don't count them, but if you think about them all falling down to the bottom like that, then you do want the bottom section to be covered, but you don't want so many sequins that it's going to fill up the whole thing and you can't see your image underneath. So I put fewer in the small sections and more in the big sections, and that bit of tape has popped up. Let me just push that right down. Once the white sheet with the images is on there, everything will stay put much more easily. So this is a big section here, so this will have more sequins in it than the small ones. Oops, stuck it to my fingers. I think this is the fiddliest bit, to be perfectly honest. I've got sequins going everywhere now. There we go. They're all all making a bid for freedom. Okay. I'm going to put the lid on those straight away. This piece of tape has walked. Let's put that back. Okay, so I've now got all my tape with the backing off. I've got my sequins in place, and the only thing left to do now is to put this back on top. Now I drew round everything, I stamped within the pencil line, so I know that's all going to be located in the right places as long as I stick this accurately on top. So it's the same size as my green layer and my acetate layer. So I'm just taking my time and dropping that down slowly. And I think that's about it. And then I'll press that down really well. I want all that tape to glue onto my white layer. There we go. And then the moment of truth. There are all my little creatures with their windows and lots of sequins there as well. Okay, so now all I need to do is to stick that onto my card base. Plenty of glue because it's a little bit heavier than normal layers. I've got acetate there. I've got 2 layers of card. I've got all those sequins and all that foam tape. I think that's straight. And then the finishing touches, I cut some bits of seaweed using the smooth sailing dies, which I thought I'd put on the table to show you. How can I find them? Yes, I can. There we are. So this is the set with the lighthouse and the boats, but there's this really nice seaweed die in it. So I've cut a couple of those, and one of them I've cut a couple of pieces off it just so that I can arrange these in perhaps a more interesting way on the front. Let's have a look. Something like that. And I quite like it when these go across those little windows, just to sort of partly obscure the fish and so on, a bit more like it would in a real ocean. I don't know if you can hear the birds. I've got some baby birds outside my window chirping away for mum, and as usual with baby birds, if mum isn't to be found, they're perfectly capable of helping themselves from the bird table, but if mum's around, they make a lot of noise. There we go. So that's my weed on there, and then the last thing is to stamp a little banner, which is here. I've got Mango Melody ink, and I'm using the stamp which says hoping all your birthday fishes come true, because I just love that. Oh, and there we go, inky mess, never mind, luckily we've got an emergency side. Okay, I'll get that straight, I hope. Right, I'm just going to pull out a baby wipe and just get that ink off my fingers before I put it onto something else. I thought it was going to be the Blackberry Bliss that got me today, but it wasn't. And then I'm just going to snip off the excess and cut a little banner end in there. I always use my grid paper for that. So this marks the center point, which I mark with a bit of pencil, and then I snip up the center and then snip from the corner in, and then from the other corner in, and that means my banner will always be symmetrical. So here's my card, a little bit of glue. I'll leave the ends loose. I haven't curled them, but I will just leave them a little bit loose. And have I glued that down? If I haven't, I might just tuck it tuck it behind just a little bit. There we are. And that is my finished card. I did stamp and insert separately just to save a little bit of time. This is from the Blossoms in Bloom set. I love the font on this, and then I just stamped some jellyfish. So I'm going to pop that inside, and then that is my third card all finished. There we are. So that's 2 shaker cards. They're both the same but slightly different. I'll pull out my mat and then I will bring in all of today's cards to show you. Thank you, Lynn. I'm glad you've enjoyed them. All right, so that's the one I made earlier. There we are. I won't know till my iPad catches up if those are all in shot. But I hope that I have given you some ideas for these dies, and that if they weren't on your wish list, maybe they are now. I think they will work for anything. I'm looking forward to creating some Christmas cards with them. Maybe some snowflake shaker cards. And there are all sorts of Christmassy images that will be really lovely on them, both in the apertures and on top. So I'm just going to turn you back so I can see you and say a proper goodbye, and I'll tell you what I will be doing next time. So let's cover that up. I'll reattach the microphone to me. And hopefully I've arranged the settings so I'm not going to be upside down, and I'm fairly straight. So let's see. Okay. Thank you, Belinda. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Okay, still waiting for my iPad to catch up. It does take forever. There we go. Okay, so next time then, 2 o'clock next Friday, I thought I would do bows. I get so many comments from people about tying bows. When I send out classes, ladies love it if I've tied their bows for them. So I thought I would go through some bows, some basic bows and some slightly more advanced bows, and I shall throw in a knot or two as well. So hopefully, whether you are bow able or bow challenged, there will be something for you. And of course, I'll be crafting with all those bows as well. So I hope you can join me next week. Have maybe a piece or two of ribbon, maybe a ribbon scrap, or frankly, even a piece of string will work. So you can practice along with me if you're not confident. And I hope that I will make you learn to love bows next week. So have a lovely weekend. Thank you very much for joining me. If you can hit that share button, I'm always super grateful. And I will look forward very much indeed to seeing you again next time. Bye bye.